taking time out of your day to join our webinar. Today's topic is Go Touchless Now, Automate AP and Beyond. And we've invited Altec to show you DocLink, which is a document management and business process automation solution. And the goal is to really just show you a more effective way of managing your everyday business processes by going touchless. You can do this, if you do this, you'll eliminate the paper and, streamline your processes, which I think everyone's looking for. So Altec will share with you how going digital can help you improve efficiencies in AP, AR, sales order, or really any department throughout your enterprise. So hopefully we can start to give you some ideas on how DocLink can help you improve productivity and really gain better control and visibility of your documents and data. So with that said, I'll turn it over to Perry Lynn, who will be giving the presentation today. Perry Lynn?
Excellent. Thank you very much, Jim. I appreciate that. Let's take a quick look at the roadmap that we have set out for today. I want to cover why a digital transformation, and then we'll move into covering some DocLink fundamentals. And I think that'll set us up nicely to then go into specifics regarding accounts payable and beyond. Where can you use DocLink? And then we'll wrap up our session today and talk a little bit about what's next, right? What are we asking from you, and what are the next steps together? So let's move into the meat of our presentation, right? Digital transformation is happening, and we all need to be aware of this. It is critically important, especially in today's climate. Right? What we're really talking about is taking the friction out of all of our internal processes that are driven by documents and paper, and really streamlining that entire cradle-to-grave life cycle of what happens in our organizations when a document arrives in, needs to go through some kind of business process, and then ultimately impact a transaction and be stored in a filing cabinet. Right? So in the world of document management, we tend to think of things, from the perspective of what is the document, right? Who are the people that need to be touching that document? What are the processes, right? And then where in the ERP, right, your accounting system, does that document and data need to reside, right? So DocLink, what it can do is really, at the end of the day, connect the right people with the right processes and the right documents to effectively do their critical work, right? We're going to talk about streamlining operations and giving you back control of the documents, data, and of course the transaction. Now, DocLink can also deliver documents outside of the organization based on a schedule, right? So think about things on the AR side of the house where you may be wanting to deliver an invoice with supporting documents. That's another capability of the software. But through these three modes, DocLink can handle all of the document life cycles, right? And that's what we're going to be showcasing today. Quick review of the top reasons why companies come to DocLink, and the issues that they're trying to solve. So what I want for you to do is just breeze your eyes over this particular slide, right? Most companies are coming to DocLink and saying, hey, listen, we want to go paperless. It is critical now to have remote access to documents. That's number one. Number two is that people really do want to streamline the AP invoice approval process. The beautiful thing with that process is, though, is that that can be extended across the organization wherever you have paper-based bottlenecks. Let's look at square three, minimizing data entry. We are in a climate where we need to do more with less, right? So the ability to use technology to replace data entry has become exponentially more critical. Okay? And at the end of the day, people want to select an application that is deeply integrated with their accounting software. And DocLink already brings that to the table. So there's no additional coding, right, that needs to take place. It really is about just simply configuring the software to meet your particular business needs and goals. So we have a saying here, and it's called any document, any process, anywhere. And I know this to be true because think about all the different areas in your organization where you may be wanting to go paperless and streamline processes. So I love this light bulb screen because it really is meant to be a catalyst for ideas. While most companies start in accounts payable, it can indeed be extended across the organization. So take a look. Is AP the very critical place that you want to start? Maybe it's somewhere different, right? So let us know if there's somewhere else that you are really interested in going paperless and streamlining business processes. So next, I want to transition into giving you kind of a bird's eye view of how DocLink works. And we talked at the top of the hour about it being very important for companies to go paperless and have documents at their fingertips. So let me explain kind of what really sets DocLink apart here. Okay? So you may be wondering how storing documents in DocLink is any different than your ability to store attachments in the ERP, right? Whether you're storing a document or a video or some other kind of file, right? The physical location of the file isn't what is important. It's really about what we call the metadata associated with the document. And we call that metadata document property or index properties. So in DocLink, what we are doing is we are storing one copy of the document, right, and the relevant index properties, right, and then allowing for people to have secure access to that, right? So whether they are calling in or we wanting to do a search, you can say, hey, listen, give me everything related to ABC Corp, and that's going to be compiled, right, and available and accessible, okay? Kind of like a virtual file folder, if you will. And that can also be driven by security. Let's take another look. Maybe you wanted to view a document from right within the window in your financial accounting application. So if you want to see everything related to an invoice, right, let's just say invoice 1552, then in your ERP, you can select what's called View Documents, and that's going to compile everything related to that particular invoice, and show you all of those related documents. The third example is about linking documents together for automatic delivery. With these index values, it's linking the documents together. So if you want to send an invoice to your customer, but they happen to require that you include backup documentation, maybe it's an MSDS sheet or a signed delivery ticket or some other kind of document, what DocLink does is it pulls that information together at the right time, and then based on the configuration and the timing, send it out to the customer. That same concept can be also deployed in other areas of the business. So we just talked about an AR invoice being aggregated together with other supporting documents and being sent out. Maybe we want to send the purchase order out to the vendor in the same way and send a supporting document, perhaps a contract. So I share that with you just so you can understand kind of the intent of the module and then be able to also expand your understanding. Now, I'm passionate about the search and retrieval because I think it provides such incredible value to organizations. And the nice thing is about the search and retrieval element, which is just one fundamental pillar of DocLink, is that it can be set up such that the users can only access those documents that they have been given secure rights to view. The other real true benefit is that we're using those document properties. Remember, we talked about invoice number, vendor name, vendor number, GL account code, sub-account of the GL. All of that becomes your powerful and flexible search criteria, and those are now your search fields, okay? What this provides for you, of course, is documents at your fingertips. Oh my gosh, we haven't even gotten into the audit yet, but to supplement and support your audit. And there are all sorts of other really nice tools that kind of come along with the search engine. You can do full text searching. That becomes important when we start talking about contracts. There's version control, right? And the point of access can be from within your ERP, from within the web, from within a mobile application. So very flexible in terms of all the possibilities there. All right, everyone, are you ready for a little bit of a poll? I'd like to get some mind share of everyone on the phone today. So Lauren is going to activate a poll, And I believe you're going to see this. Actually, I see it now on my screen here. So you'll see it on the right-hand side. And what I want you to do is just check the box. Where are you storing your documents today? And if your intent is to look beyond AP, that's all right. You know, maybe you've got sales order or parts information or HR documents. That's fine. Let us know, where are they being stored? Filing cabinets, offsite storage, network file share, right? I really like number E, and it's only kind of like a little bit tongue-in-cheek down in the dungeon. I had some companies that were in two different scenarios. One, they stored them in the attic. This is when I worked back east. And then I had some that were storing down in the basement. And it was really quite an ordeal for them to go down and select documents and try and get them out of the boxes and, you know, to what they had to do with them. So just very interesting there.
Yeah,
all right,
we actually had some responses for the dungeon, funnily enough. But the majority, 27%, are saying file cabinets. I have 18% saying network file share and 9% saying the dungeon.
Okay,
very funny.
Very interesting. So the whole goal here is to really provide a tool, right, where you can go paperless. I have one company, they had actually had a sales tax audit, and they got a 6-digit penalty. And the controller of their organization, you know, they were writing the check for that penalty, and they said, oh my gosh, you know, it was just so painful. And after they had implemented DocLink, they first started with scanning in historical disbursement packets, because they were concerned that if an audit came back, right, that they were going to get another ding. And if you get the ding once, right, a penalty, then you're a bit of a target for the next time around. So once they implemented DocLink, they were able to pass audits, of course, with flying colors, and they had easy access to documents. And then as a second phase in their organization, that's when they actually went for an AP automation deployment. Okay, but let's continue on. And let's kind of go into how can DocLink support your AP transactions. And it's interesting. We are always trying to help companies extend their understanding of what's possible in DocLink. And while many, many companies start in accounts payable, mostly because it is probably just a wash in paper, it's a relatively easy process to get their hands on, you know, despite the fact that we are always trying to say, you know, don't forget, look at other areas in the organization where you're feeling these kind of paper-based pinches and bottlenecks. All right, so let's see. So Lauren, just a little technical thing. I have the poll on my right-hand side. I'm going to close that down. I presume it's not disrupting, though, what everyone else is seeing?
No, you should be fine.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for that. All right, so a quick case study, and then we'll get into some more details. So this is an existing customer, Thornburg Investment Management Company, and they were faced with a 15% year-over-year growth, which meant that their paperwork load in accounting was growing, you know, at an equal rate. And they had invoices that were sent via interoffice mail or FedEx for approval, right? And checks were physically hand-carried by accounting to check signers. And they really were at a crossroads. Do they hire another person to help manage the research and the processing and continuing to pay for their file storage, you know, or do they find a solution? And so how they're using DocLink today is they have users, you know, moving invoices into DocLink. We've got two different kinds of scenarios, ones that are coming in via email and some that are still going to be hard copy. In today's climate, I'm thinking everyone's going to be encouraging their vendors to get invoices sent to them electronically, and then we can leverage OCR to scrape that data, and now we can move it through an approval process if necessary. Okay, and that's exactly what Thornburg is doing. They also extended the solution to journal entries, right? And we're able to scan in any related backup documents there. All right, so the results, right? This is really important. And in today's conversation, we'll be highlighting those areas where you can start calculating a true return on investment. This company, ROI was achieved in 9 months, pretty powerful. Saved $40,000 and not having to hire more staff. And they also were able to get savings in terms of their annual storage fee. So kind of rhetorically back to you, you can start thinking about what are the costs of doing business manually, and how might that be impacted if you were to go with a document management solution such as DocLink. All right, let's take a look at a process. So what you're seeing here on the screen, right, is AP, right? And we have an invoice coming in. Someone maybe needs to open the mail, right? They're matching it to the purchase order. Now they've got to route this off for the approval process. If it's a non-PO, maybe the manager is coding that invoice. If it's PO-based, they're kind of comparing, did this match? You know, was there any discrepancies? Comes back to AP. Now, ultimately, it gets entered into the ERP. A check is written. And in the past, it's been about, you know, manually filing those documents away. And then when someone wants to do research, it's back to the filing cabinets. This is the process that DocLink automates, right? What would it mean to you as you're in your organization if you were able to achieve this? And I think the benefits are tremendous. So let me kind of take you through kind of what it looks like. And that way, you've got a sense of kind of what we're talking about and how this may influence what you're doing today. So here's my little story, right? So this is an invoice coming into AP's inbox, and OCR can monitor that inbox. What it's going to do is it's going to look at that invoice. It's going to make it 100% digitized. So now we're looking at the OCR portion, right? We see the invoice over here on the right-hand side. It's completely digitized. And if you look over on the left, it has already automatically gathered all of the pieces from that invoice that we need, okay? Now that we've got this information, now we can physically do something with it. Now, if we are talking about PO-based invoices, then the software is sophisticated enough to gather that line item information. It gathers the line item information and compares to what was received in your ERP, right? And that way, we're facilitating an automatic matching process. Now, in our little demo today, I've kind of made these stop here because I wanted to show you the user interface. But the whole point is to be able to move into a manage by exception process such that the invoices that either match or the system was able to scrape the data and there's no evidence of a unvalidated character, then those are going to move along in the process. So what's going to stop in OCR are just those that either have a questionable character or there has triggered some kind of unmatched process on the PO side. And that'll give you an opportunity to kind of correct it before it moves off, okay? So this is just showing you an example of some of the warning messages that you can get. All right, now that the document has been captured into DocLink, right, we've OCR read it, now AP has an opportunity to sign into the solution, and we're going to kind of take a look at things from their perspective in workflow. So this is accounts payable, and I see kind of in this dashboard format all the invoices that have come to me for processing. The ones that I had used OCR, I already see the data here, and this is going to raise visibility of this transaction. And even my supervisor can see what is in my workflow queue, right? So we're raising visibility and control not only of this document, but of the overall transaction, right? Okay, so the next step is, let me pick one invoice and let's talk about that more specifically. So in this case, I'm looking at my one invoice. The information from OCR has already populated, and I want to bring your eyes up here to the top. Grab my mouse up here in this area, right? So the information that was captured in OCR has flowed in. Now, as a user, I can support that information by offering the GL account codes, right? Unless they were already populated as well, right? There's a couple different ways that you can also interact. So I was showing you the stamp and the document kind of together. You can also view the stamp all by itself in a larger window. And then the next step is that once we've either provided coding for a non-PO based invoice, right, or we've reviewed that invoice, we can now send it through the workflow process. When I use the term workflow, it really simply means sending it through a business process. Now you can pick from the drop-down box. That's very simple. Or in some cases, people want to use what's called rules-based automation. It means that there's a hierarchy approval process in the organization, and they want to use information like dollar amount or GL account code or vendor or a combination of those data pieces in order to route it through kind of a cyclical approval process prior to it coming back to AP. Okay. Now let's take a look at the approvals because I get lots and lots of questions about approvals. There are a couple different ways that we can offer approvals to end users. Number one is they can simply get an email alert. This is just intended to give them information. And in this case, it's also kind of extending it to say, hey, listen, we've got a quote that needs to go through the approval process. The software is highly configurable. So this is one way of also suggesting, don't forget, think about other ways that you may want to use that email approval and notify someone that a document has moved and someone needs to take action. Right, so number one, notification only. Number two is actually my personal favorite. This provides the invoice as an attachment, and you can kind of see it there. And then look at these approval or deny links. There's also one that you can view workflow. So this gives a very easy way for the managers to approve with a note, or if they are responsible for coding invoices, then they can click the view workflow link and go right into that particular document. Okay. All right, now we also wanted to just refresh your memory about the mobile application. Now this is a true mobile app, so you can certainly get email approvals to your phone, but there are going to be some users that really want a mobile application. This is mostly relevant when we're wanting to use the mobile application for other kinds of things as well. Things like capturing receipts to move into an expense report, or we're wanting to use the mobile application to execute a workflow move. Okay, so two distinct things, email approvals and a distinct mobile application as well. Okay, let's continue on in our process. So really the invoice has been approved and it comes back to AP. Now the integration that we enjoy allows for us to simply take that information and move it into the ERP window, right? Very simple. You would do your normal posting transaction, we'll capture the payment, everything is beautifully aggregated. What are the benefits of workflow, right? So the big benefits of workflow is, of course, routing documents electronically through the approval process, which expedites the approval process. So our ROI equation is going after early pay discounts, avoiding late fees, providing better visibility so no one has to call. Where is this invoice in the process? I gave it to you last week. Why haven't you approved it? Or a vendor calling, hey, why haven't you paid my invoice? Right? Okay. And then, of course, the automated AP entry. When we look at the holistic document lifecycle of capturing the purchase order automatically, scanning in a packing slip, right, bringing in the invoice electronically and leveraging OCR, we've got all the documents and the data that can be repurposed. So AP no longer has to do traditional AP data entry, and that's going to really streamline processes as well. All right, ready for another poll? All right, so you'll see that pop open on the right-hand side, but I'm curious to know from your perspective, all the folks here on the line, what's going on in your organizations? You know, what's kind of inspired you to take a look at today's presentation? You know, are you mostly focused on the approval processes, right? Are you just simply understanding that right now, today, everything requires a lot of touching and moving and manual manipulation of documents? Right, are things getting lost? Is data entry maybe your hot button? What's happening? And I see the poll here. Good. And then we're just going to ask Lauren to give us maybe a little snippet of the trend.
So far, I am seeing, well, it keeps jumping, but so the majority are, the current process requires a lot of touching, moving, and filing documents. Majority, like over 33% That's their choice. And the other one was the approval processes. So those are the two that people are touching on right now.
Okay, okay. And hopefully everyone saw in the last kind of little demonstration about why and comparing and contrasting kind of what you're doing today and what it means when we say that AP automation is going to be critical to an organization. Okay? All right, let's transition now. I want to help you understand how you can extend the basic components of DocLink into other areas. So one of the areas that we talked about initially was accounts receivable, right? These, of course, are the invoices that you're sending out to customers to pay. So this is pretty simple in this case because what we're talking about is, using one of the methodologies to easily capture documents. If they are paper and the only way that they can ever come into the organization is by paper, then of course you're going to need to scan it and make that document electronic. However, any document that is produced within your ERP or produced within another line of business application, then it opens up the possibility of to do an automatic capture and indexing of that document. There's all sorts of things we can do to make it even easier. There's automatic capture from email. If it's a hard copy document, we can have that a barcode on it and then scan that in as well. What's happening behind the scenes is that DocLink, based on the configuration, is saying, when I get certain documents, join them up together, and then based on the schedule and the preference of the end user, send them out, based on those parameters. So the end result is that you can have both a AR invoice and a supporting document sent out automatically with no human intervention, right, to your customers and partners, right? So that can be a tremendous time savings, especially if in today's world you are kind of manually collating documents together, manually attaching to them in an email, manually typing in a note, right, and then sending it off, and then repeat, repeat, repeat until all of those documents are sent out. The system can do that automatically, okay? So the big value proposition here is about automating them through pre-configured routing rules, attach all that backup documentation, right? And then you get to state what the delivery schedule is. It could be done immediately. It could be done in off hours to kind of help mitigate any traffic issues. Right? And the savings can be quite profound as well. So this particular company, they actually provide end-to-end software and services to help state and local governments, and I think also K-12 schools. And the whole goal for them is to help those entities be more effective and efficient and responsive. They also have 2,400 employees. And in their case, it wasn't actually AR, but they did ACH remittances that were being printed and physically mailed, which seems a challenge, right, to say the least. So they actually used our software and were able to save $11,000 just on the postage only. Now, that's only one area of the calculation. What about that person's time? What about the paper and the envelope cost? I mean, so you're just kind of being able to see a broader picture of why go paperless. Okay. Okay. Let's take a look at HR. All right, so HR is another area that you can easily bring DocLink to. And this also kind of depends on what you want to do on the HR side of things. There are two primary business cases that I can think of in HR. Number one is about storing documents, of course, for easy search and retrieval. And remember, we talked about the metadata or the index properties related to those documents. So how powerful would it be in your organization if you were able to quickly look for all documents related to a department or a particular employee, right? So it really gives you that agility of having documents at your fingertips and being able to easily get them, when you need them. Okay, I want to give you a little bit of a use case. this is an example of one of our customers that deployed DocLink in HR. Now, this particular company has 600 employees. They have 5 grocery stores, right, each at about 30,000 square feet each, about 110 million in sales. And what they had found was they needed to deploy DocLink in 2 primary areas. Back to AP, of course, and they certainly did that. They implemented DocLink. They got it up and running in a very quick time frame, in less than 2 months, and to solve the traditional AP issues. But more importantly is they actually deployed it in HR as well. So same kind of business issues. They were mired down with paper, resumes, applications, benefit forms, W-4s, I-9s, employee reviews, payroll stubs, right, all of it. And they wanted those to have easy access, but they also wanted to automate the process. So they created 3 major workflows for documents. Resume review, right? So resume comes in, is routed through various departments for approval, right? And then what's next? Do you want to bring this employee on board? They also used what we call our Smart Form Toolkit for a time off request. So the employee signed into the web, filled out their time request, and off it went. Okay? So they were able to easily stop using paper and AP and easily use paper, or move away from paper and the HR side as well. Okay. All right, so we've talked a little bit about AP and AR and HR, and I wanted to make sure that everyone was super, super clear on the capabilities of leveraging DocLink across the enterprise, right? So I want to just come back here for a brief moment to make sure that you're clear that there are many ways to capture documents. If we understand how that document is being produced or comes into an organization, we can decide what's the best methodology to capture that document. Once that document has been captured, now we can physically do something with it. And that's that business process automation, and allowing you to use rules and other kinds of data in order to route it through a series of approvals before the next step can occur. And you get to decide that next step. Is it simply about storing that document for search and retrieval? Or is it more about taking that document and data and importing it into the ERP to facilitate more data entry and easy access to documents? All right, so I'd actually like to do maybe a little on-the-fly question here. And so Lauren, this is a little bit of a surprise for you, but I'm just curious to know, for everyone on the presentation today, outside of AP, where in your organization are you looking at going paperless? Where else? So why don't you chat back to Lauren, and then Lauren, we can kind of do just a little on-the-fly kind of aggregate of what's happening there. Where are people wanting to go? And I'm curious to know if it's going to mirror what I sense happening. So what I see in the field is that even though it's closely related to AP, many people want to go paperless in expense reports, right? And so we talk about kind of how is that possible with DocLink. You can take a picture with your cell phone of your receipt, and that goes into DocLink Mobile, and you give it some values. And then you can upload that into an expense report form. And then that goes through workflow, integrated into the ERP in order to pay the employee. The other, so that's one, right? The other process that I'm seeing more and more prevalent is actually on the top right, the quote to check, kind of more on the sales order processing, where people want to track that entire life cycle of documents from the very initial quote that is generated, right? And you may not start with quotes. That's okay. I'm just painting the possibilities here. But starting with the quote, right? Then the customer PO comes in. Do we want to OCR capture that customer PO and compare it to the initial quote? If it matches, great. Let's push that over into sales order. If it does not match, then do we want it to go through some kind of approval process, right? Okay, so Lauren, let me come back to you. I'm curious, is the trend kind of staying true where expense reports and then sales order processing is kind of where people want to take it, or is there a different trend that you're seeing?
Actually, they do mention those two, but they also mention contracts. So there's a couple people with the contracts. So yeah.
Yes, yes. Okay, so let's talk about contracts. And here's my offer. If anything that we've talked about today resonates with you, then please reach out to Jim, right, and the staff there at TMC. They can get us involved, and we can do what's called a discovery call. And that kind of call, we want to outline what you're doing today. That sets us up perfectly to be able to give you a quote and then gear up for a demonstration so we can then show you the software, exactly how it would work for you, based on your specifics, okay? Okay, so that's my offer to you. If anything has resonated today, let's make that happen. But in the contract management side, what you can do there is, number one, store documents in the system. In contracts, full text searching will probably become very important because you want to kind of have a more open, way of looking for documents, right? So that's number one. You can also use versioning. So maybe you have a contract that you are creating and you want to track the various versions of that contract and then only display to the final contract, to various users. And then, of course, you can use expiration dates to drive a process or notify people, hey, a contract's expiring, or even move it into a workflow, which can be very critical, especially if you need to be able to renegotiate the terms of that contract, prior to, having it automatically renew for you. All right, so lots and lots of possibilities. So let us know kind of where you want to go with document management and business process automation, and then we can certainly help you out. So there are lots of different things that set DocLink apart in the marketplace. I have worked for DocLink for 12.5 years, and I really believe in the solution, in the depths of the functionality of our product and the value that it brings to organizations. We truly have a world-class product. We can also work on very, very fast implementations for you. So if we understand the most critical scope, we can build an implementation plan around that to meet your objectives. And outstanding customer support. This is critical as well. For DocLink, there's probably about a 95 to 97% renewal rate, and that's because companies become so ingrained in their use of DocLink, they take it when they move to different ERP or they move positions, and then they want DocLink to be able to be brought on board to that new community. So we have exceptional customer support as well. It is available 24/7. And what we do is we have companies call into our support line. It's actually hosted in Tacoma, Washington, and then we can triage calls from there. All right, are you ready for another poll? So this is the last poll for today. And so Lauren's going to pop open the polling question. I see it there on the screen. And I'm curious to know, for today, what was the inspiration, of you attending? Are you trying to do some knowledge building? I like B. My boss made me do it. Right? Do you have an actual initiative within your department? And I especially like D, which is we can really use this. We're ready to learn more. Contact me. So let us know which one that is appropriate for you. And if you do want to be contacted right away, be sure to click that button, and then we'll have the TMC team, probably Jim, reach out and get a discovery call scheduled. So that really reminds me of our offer and our desire to say, hey, listen, what's next? Right? And then what's next is, if you are ready to start exploring DocLink for your organization, please reach out to Jim and he can set up a discovery call. Remember that discovery call is where we're going to kind of outline your project goals, or get a high-level understanding of the issues that your organization is trying to solve, and then we'll outline your current business processes. That way, it makes it very, very easy to give you a quote, right, and gear up for a product demonstration. We'll show you live product, specific to your particular requirements. All right, so that really wraps up what I had prepared for today. And I hope that everything was informational and educational and a little bit inspirational. So we can open it up for some Q&A, Lauren, if there are questions that the audience has today.
All right, while we're waiting for questions, we do have a few people who said we could really use this, ready to contact them, so that's awesome. And we did have one that said my boss made them, her, I don't know, but that was funny too. But yeah, if anybody has any questions, go ahead and type that in the chat box. And we can, let me see, oh, here is some. Can you tell us again about document properties? Can I put any document into DocLink?
Oh, thank you. Yes, good question. Yes, you can. So any document, report, form, or file type can be brought into DocLink. So maybe you want to store videos or photos or some other kind of document that is related to your business. Absolutely anything can be brought into DocLink. Those document properties that I talked about, the powerful search criteria, those are based on the different document types. So those are also definable, and we'll work with you on defining what those need to be. Now, in traditional business processes, AP, HR, AR, we know what the properties are, right? But if there's something unique to your organization, those, of course, can all be definable. Good question.
The follow-up question is, not a follow-up question, can you do wildcard search?
Oh, yes, yes, you can. Actually, that's really important, too, because it talks about the flexibility of having access to documents. So if you're not sure, if you're not sure what the entire data set is, you can do wildcard searches. And wildcard searches can also come into play when you're wanting to like eliminate preceding zeros, right? That can be another good use case.
Okay, I had another question. Does this work with timesheets?
It can, absolutely. So so two different scenarios, right? Are you trying to move an existing timesheet into the organization? Then I would ask the question, how is that timesheet produced? Are we talking about something that's generated in an application? That can be brought in electronically. If we're talking about something that is an Excel sheet, right, then we'll want to look at automating that into a smart form. So lots of possibilities for timesheets.
Great. I had another question. Not all vendors send invoices through email. How would we handle invoices that are mailed in?
So for invoices that are mailed in, the first step is to make them paperless, right? So you'll need to scan them, which makes that now an electronic image. But when I'm talking with customers, it is very rare that a vendor cannot send something electronic, or sorry, that they cannot, so, right? So paper is going away. And I think now, more than ever before, we can reach out to our vendors right now today and ask them to email invoices, right? That's going to eliminate a lot of the paper right away.
Okay, great. I don't see any, oh, actually, Lamina, does DocLink attend any annual GPO conference? And yes, we do.
That's correct, that's correct. We do indeed. And I think more and more of those, at least in the near-term future, we'll probably be moving to similar webinars such as this, and we'll see how those all pan out.
Yeah. I don't have any other questions, but if you think of any questions afterwards, you can always feel free to reach out to Jim. Actually, here's another question that popped through. Can we add fields to use as meta tags? In other words, user-defined fields that we can use as additional data entry that will serve as meta tag to link documents.
Yes, you can. Absolutely. Those are all definable.
Wonderful. Okay. How are you, another question, sorry, PL. How are you notified that an invoice is due for payment?
How are you notified that an invoice is due for payment? Well, when it's traveling in workflow, you're going to be tracking the due date of that particular invoice, so you can manage everything by those particular due dates. When we're talking about generating the payment side of things, you can do a traditional payment register and capture the payment register and send that also through a workflow if you wanted to see the invoices that related to that.
Okay, great. Any other questions, anybody out there? And while we're waiting, I think we're probably pretty much done. If Jim or PL has any last minute words for anyone?
No, I appreciate the opportunity to showcase DocLink and talk about all the different reasons why companies go paperless. And I'd love to see you all reach out to Jim, and then we can get a discovery call set up, and then I can showcase for you how DocLink would work in your environment. So I think with that, I'll pass it back to Jim for any closing comments.
That's it. Thank you, Pearlyn. I appreciate it. You guys have stated everything I'd want to talk about. I do just want to say thank you very much for the very professional, well thought out presentation. I believe it's one of the best presentations I've seen in a long time in a webinar. I think that's indicated by all the questions that we had, that it was of interest and value to the people who are watching the registrants. So thank you for that. We appreciate that. And again, if anyone does have any questions, wants to take a deeper dive, set up a discovery call, a demo, to see how the process can work for your specific business, just give me a call. I've seen most of the people on the list, and you all have my contact information, but it's here right in front of you as well. So again, thank you very much, Pearlyn and Altec. Everyone have a great day, be safe, and we'll talk soon. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jim. Bye-bye.